Chapter 1. The Love That Faded. Alina believed love never ends. When she married Barry, she thought it would last forever. In the beginning, everything felt like a dream. Barry cared for her, made her laugh, and called her his world. They spent nights talking about their future, holding hands and making small promises. Every morning he used to smile and say, "You make my life complete." Those words stayed in her heart for years. But slowly things started to change. The laughter faded. The talks became short. The small things that once made them happy now turned into silence. Barry came home late, always busy, always tired. Alina waited at the dinner table, her eyes on the door, hoping he would smile again like before. But the man who once called her beautiful now avoided even looking at her. One evening she asked softly, "Barry, are you upset with me?" He didn't answer. He just said, "I'm fine," and looked away. That night Alina cried quietly. She remembered their wedding day, how happy he was then and how empty he looked now. She didn't understand what went wrong. She still cooked his favorite food. She still cared for him. She still wore the dress he once said he loved. Weeks passed and the distance grew. Barry started spending weekends outside. When Alina asked where he went, he said, "With friends." But deep down she felt something was not right. His phone was always locked. He smiled at his screen, but not at her. One day she saw a message flash on his phone. "I miss you already." Her hands began to shake. She waited until night and asked him, "Who was that?" Barry got angry. "You don't trust me anymore. This is why I don't talk to you." Alina stayed quiet. Tears fell, but she didn't speak. That night she looked at her reflection in the mirror and said softly, "What did I do wrong?" Her voice broke as she whispered, "I gave you everything." A few days later Barry came home late again. His shirt smelled like perfume. She didn't know. She tried to hug him, but he moved away. "Don't do this," he said coldly. "You've changed." Alina looked at him with pain. "I changed. I still love you the same way I always did." He shook his head. "You don't understand. I don't feel the same anymore." Those words felt like a knife. She couldn't breathe. "You mean you don't love me?" she asked in disbelief. Barry looked down. "Maybe not like before." For hours Alina sat alone on the couch, staring into nothing. Her heart refused to believe what her ears had heard. The next morning she made breakfast and waited, hoping he would say sorry, hoping this was just a bad dream. But Barry looked calm. He said quietly, "Alina, I think we need to end this. I want a divorce." Her spoon dropped from her hand. "No, Barry," she cried. "Please don't say that. We can fix everything. We can talk. We can go somewhere. We can start again." He didn't even look at her. "It's over," he said, walking away. Alina ran behind him. "Don't leave me. You promised we'd stay together no matter what." Barry turned and said words she would never forget. "You're not the same woman anymore. You don't make me feel alive. You don't even look good now." That sentence broke her completely. She fell to her knees and said, "I took care of you when you were sick. I stood by you when you had nothing. And today you're telling me I'm not enough." He walked to the door emotionless. "I'm sorry, Alina," he said, and left. As the door closed, her whole world fell apart. The silence inside the house was louder than any scream. She sat on the floor holding the photo of their wedding. "You promised forever," she whispered. "And forever ended today." Days turned into weeks, but Alina couldn't move on. Every corner of the house reminded her of him. His clothes, his books, his favorite mug. Everything spoke of a love that had died. She stopped eating, stopped talking, and stopped smiling. At night she prayed, "God, please bring him back. I can't live like this." One evening she saw a picture online of Barry with another woman. The woman was young, maybe 25, full of life. Alina stared at the photo for minutes. It felt like the air had left her body. She whispered. So this is why she finally understood. He had found someone new. That night she packed his old things in a box. For the first time she said aloud, "If you can move on, then one day I will too." But her heart didn't believe her words. She cried until she fell asleep on the floor. Love had faded. The man she built her life around had walked away. But somewhere deep inside, a small voice still said, maybe he'll come back. Maybe he'll remember. And that hope, weak but alive, kept her heart beating through the pain. Like, subscribe and share. Read this story and many more on our website, bookishenglish.com. Link in the description. Chapter 2. The Door That Closed. After Barry left, the house turned into a memory. Every small thing carried his name. Alina looked at his empty chair and felt her chest tighten. Nights were the hardest. She waited for footsteps that never came. Sometimes she imagined the sound of his key turning, but the door always stayed silent. She tried to act strong in front of people. When her neighbor asked, "Are you okay?" she smiled and said, "I'm fine." But inside she was breaking. She couldn't understand how a man who once held her hand now didn't care if she lived or not. Days passed in slow motion. She stopped answering calls. She avoided her friends because she couldn't face their questions. Her mother called one evening and said, "Come home for a while." Alina whispered, "No, I'm fine here." After hanging up, she burst into tears. Every morning she looked in the mirror and saw tired eyes. She touched her face and said softly, he said, "I'm not beautiful anymore." Her voice trembled. "But I gave him my best years." She sat on the floor hugging her knees, like a child who had lost everything. One afternoon she opened her wardrobe and found the red dress Barry had gifted her on their anniversary. She held it close and whispered, "You said this color was made for me." For a moment she smiled. Then her smile broke into tears. She placed the dress back and closed the door as if closing the past. Weeks later, the divorce papers arrived. She looked at her name written beside the word single. Her hands shook. She signed slowly, feeling like she was signing away her life. The pen slipped from her fingers. She whispered, "So, this is how love ends." That night she sat near the window, staring into darkness. "Barry, please come back," she said to the empty room. Her tears fell again and again until she felt no strength left. A few days later she saw a photo online, Barry smiling beside a young woman. The caption read, "New beginnings." Elena's heart stopped for a moment. She stared at the screen, whispering, "So this is why you left." She felt anger and pain mix inside her, like fire and ice. She turned off the phone and cried till morning. When the sun came up, she said to herself, "I have to live." But living felt like punishment. She tried to cook but ended up crying in the kitchen. She tried to sleep but dreamed of him laughing with someone else. Her heart refused to heal. One evening she opened her old diary. Between 2 pages she found a letter. Barry once wrote, "You are my forever." She touched the words and said, "Forever" lasted 5 years. Days kept passing. Bills piled up. She had to think about money, about rent, about how to survive alone. For the first time she felt fear of the future. "I don't know where to start," she said to herself. Then one morning she looked outside and saw children going to school. Their laughter reminded her that life was still moving. She whispered, "Maybe I should move too." She wiped her tears and made tea. That small act felt like courage. She started reading job posts online. She didn't know if she could work again after years of being a wife, but something inside her said, "Try once." That evening she opened her closet again, removed all of Barry's things, and packed them into boxes. While doing it, she said aloud, "Thank you for the memories. Now let me breathe." When she finished, the room felt lighter. It was the first step, a quiet one but real. She still missed him, but she also knew she couldn't keep waiting. Love had walked out and closed the door behind it. Alina looked at that door one last time and whispered, "I hope one day you remember what you threw away." Then she turned around, ready to face life alone. Join our YouTube membership to enjoy exclusive new emotional stories made just for you. Chapter 3. The Woman Who Stood Again. Months passed after Barry's shadow left her life. Alina still woke up at the same time, but now there was no one to say good morning. Some mornings she sat in silence, staring at the cup of tea that had gone cold. One day she whispered to herself, "I can't cry forever." Those words came out weak but true. For the first time she wanted to change something. She took a deep breath and cleaned her table. She threw away old notes that smelled of her past. When she looked at the empty surface, she said quietly, "It's time to fill this again." That evening she opened her laptop and searched for jobs. Her hands shook as she typed. She had not worked for years. She wondered if anyone would want her now. Then she smiled faintly and said, "If I don't try, I'll never know." The next morning she went for an interview. She wore a plain dress and simple smile. She didn't tell them about her pain. She only said, "I can work hard." A week later she got the call. "You're selected," the voice said. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you, God." The first day at work was difficult. Her hands trembled as she handled files. People around her looked busy and confident, but she didn't give up. She kept learning quietly. That evening when she returned home, she said aloud, "I did it." For the first time in months she felt a little proud. Days turned into weeks. Slowly she began to laugh again. Her coworkers liked her calm nature. Among them was a young man named Justin. He was full of energy, kind, and always ready to help. One morning when Alina looked worried, he smiled and said, "Don't stress. You'll get it right." She looked at him and said softly, "Thanks." His kindness felt different. Justin often brought her coffee. "You need this," he would say with a playful tone. Alina laughed for the first time without feeling guilty. He noticed the sadness in her eyes but never asked why. Instead, he made small jokes that made her forget her pain for a moment. One afternoon when she dropped some papers, Justin helped her pick them up. Their hands touched for a second. She pulled back quickly. "I'm sorry," she said. Justin smiled. "It's okay." That smile stayed with her the whole evening. Over the next months they became close friends. They shared lunch, stories, and laughter. Justin once asked, "What do you do on weekends?" She replied, "Mostly sit alone and think." He looked at her and said, "Then stop thinking. Come out sometimes." She smiled but said nothing. Later that night she remembered his words. She realized she hadn't gone out in months. The next weekend she decided to take a walk. She looked at the sky and whispered, "Maybe I can start living again." As time passed, Justin became a regular part of her life. When she felt sad, he noticed without asking. Once she had tears in her eyes during lunch. Justin said gently, "You don't have to hide them. You've been strong long enough." Those words touched her heart. She looked at him and said, "You're too kind." At home she started writing again in her old diary. She wrote, "I met someone who reminds me that kindness still exists." For the first time the pages didn't feel heavy. Justin's friendship brought light where there was only darkness. He didn't try to replace Barry. He only reminded her that she still mattered. Alina felt safe talking to him. She told him small things about her day. He listened with care, never interrupting. One evening when she was about to leave, The office, Justin said. Can I walk you to the bus stop? She hesitated but then said, yes. They walked together talking about nothing and everything. Before leaving, Justin said, you deserve happiness, you know. She looked at him for a moment and said, quietly, I hope you're right. At night, Alina couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about his words, you deserve happiness. No one had said that to her in years. She placed her hand on her heart and whispered, maybe I do. From that day, something changed inside her. She started dressing better. She smiled more often. People at work noticed the glow returning to her face. Justin saw it too and said, that's the smile I was waiting for. She laughed and said, don't say things like that. But deep inside she liked hearing it. Alina didn't realize it yet, but she was learning to live again. She had survived pain, loss, and loneliness. Now she was learning the language of hope. She looked at her reflection one morning and said with courage, the woman who was broken is standing again. Join our YouTube membership to enjoy exclusive new emotional stories made just for you. Chapter 4. The Young Man and the Broken Heart. Justin's friendship soon became the most peaceful part of Elena's day. She had stopped counting her pain and started counting the people who cared. Every morning he greeted her with a smile, and every evening he said, don't work too hard. Those small things began to heal something inside her. One afternoon, Justin walked to her desk and said softly, you look tired. Let's take a break. She nodded and they went to the small corner where they often talked. You know, he said, you smile less when you think too much. Alina smiled gently. I still forget how to be happy sometimes. Justin replied, then let me remind you. His words were simple, but they stayed with her the whole night. She started waiting for his texts. When he didn't message, her heart felt empty. She told herself, he's just a friend. Yet deep inside she knew his kindness was touching something fragile in her. One day Justin brought her a small box. Inside was a pen. You said you like writing. Maybe this will bring it back. Alina looked at him with moist eyes. You remember everything, she whispered. He smiled and said, some people are hard to forget. That evening Alina wrote a note in her diary. He makes me laugh when I want to cry. She closed it quickly, afraid of what she was feeling. Weeks later, Justin asked her to join him for lunch outside. She refused first, but he insisted, please, it's just lunch. They went together, and during the meal, he said quietly, I know you've been hurt, but you still have the most beautiful heart I've ever seen. She looked away. Justin, please don't say that. I can't hear those words again. He asked gently. Why not? She answered. Because they always end in pain. He said nothing more. But that night he sent her a short message. You deserve love that doesn't hurt. Alina stared at the screen for a long time. Months passed and their bond grew stronger. He supported her in everything. When she doubted herself, he said, you can do it. When she succeeded, he clapped first. She didn't realize when his presence became part of her peace. One evening after work, Justin waited near the gate. He looked nervous. Alina, can we talk? She nodded. His voice trembled a little. I love you, he said. I tried not to, but I do. You don't have to say anything. I just wanted to tell you. Alina froze. Her heart beat fast. Justin, you are very kind, she said slowly, but my heart is still broken. I still love my ex-husband. Justin took a deep breath. He left you years ago. He hurt you. You can't keep loving the ghost of someone who's gone. She looked at him with tears. Love doesn't follow time, just stays. He didn't argue. He only said, then, I'll wait. She shook her head. Please, don't. I can be your friend, nothing more. He smiled sadly. Even as a friend you make my world better. After he left, Alina cried alone. She whispered, "Why does love always find me when I'm not ready?" She tried to push the feeling away, but every message from Justin made her heart warm again. Days later she saw him laughing with someone else at the office. For a moment she felt jealous. Then she caught herself thinking, why am I feeling this way? She realized the truth she didn't want to face. She liked him too. That night she looked at the pen he had given her and said softly, "Maybe love is not always betrayal. Maybe this time it can be kind." She smiled for the first time without guilt. The next day Justin met her in the hallway. "You look happy today," he said. "Maybe because you reminded me how to smile," she replied. He looked surprised, then smiled back. From that day their friendship turned into something unspoken but special. She didn't call it love yet, but it was growing quietly. Alina wrote in her diary again that night, "I thought my heart was broken forever. But someone younger taught me that hearts can heal too." Chapter 5. The Promise of a New Start. Justin never mentioned his love again after that day. He kept his distance but still cared for Alina silently. His kindness didn't stop, but his words did. Alina missed their long talks. She missed his jokes and his messages. She didn't understand why her heart felt empty again. One evening she saw him leaving early and asked softly, "Are you angry with me?" He smiled and said, "No, I'm only learning to control my heart." She watched him walk away and whispered, "You don't need to." That night Alina couldn't sleep. She remembered everything he had done. The way he listened, the way he never judged her, the way he made her feel alive again. She whispered to herself, "He made me believe in love again," and I pushed him away. Her eyes filled with tears. Days passed and Alina started noticing Justin differently. His laughter, his patience, his calm voice. All of it began to mean more to her. When he looked at her she felt safe. When he smiled her heart answered. She didn't call it love yet, but it was growing silently inside her. One day Justin came to her desk with a small smile. "You're glowing lately," he said. She laughed softly. "Maybe because someone taught me to live again." He looked at her carefully, but she didn't say more. Weeks later she found herself waiting for him each morning. When he wasn't around, her day felt incomplete. She didn't realize when friendship had turned into something deeper. One evening as they walked out together, Justin said, "You've changed a lot." Alina smiled gently. "Maybe I finally started healing." He looked into her eyes and said, "Then, maybe it's time you start loving again." She paused. "Justin, love hasn't been kind to me," he said quietly. "Then let it be kind this time." His words touched her heart. She didn't reply but kept thinking about them all night. In the mirror she looked at her reflection and said softly, "Maybe I should stop living in the past." The next week Justin got a job offer in another city. When he told her she felt something break inside. "You're leaving?" she asked. "It's a big opportunity," he said, "but I'll miss working with you." Alina felt tears rising but held them back. She said, "You deserve the best." He smiled. "So do you." That night she cried again, but for a different reason. It wasn't the pain of loss. It was the fear of losing someone good again. The next morning she went to his desk and said quietly, "Can we meet after work?" Justin looked surprised but nodded. When they met that evening she took a deep breath and said, "You once said I deserve love that doesn't hurt. Maybe I'm ready for that now." He looked at her with disbelief. "Are you sure?" he asked. She smiled through tears. "I'm tired of running from happiness." Justin took her hand slowly and said, "Then let's start again with no promises, only honesty." She nodded, whispering, "That's all I need." After a few months they got married. was simple, quiet, and peaceful. There were no big parties, no noise, only two people who had learned what love really means. Alina looked at him and said softly, "Thank you for waiting for a woman who took too long to heal." Justin smiled and said, "You were worth every second." Their days together were full of calm happiness. Justin respected her deeply. He never compared her to anyone. He never reminded her of her past. Alina felt safe for the first time in years. She said once, "You don't make my heart race, you make it rest." Justin smiled. That's exactly what love should do. Slowly Alina began to believe she had found peace again. She wrote in her diary, "Maybe this is what love is supposed to feel like. Kind, patient, and real." She looked at her ring and whispered, "This time I will not lose it." The woman who once cried for love had finally learned that love was not about perfection. It was about peace. She had moved from pain to strength, from loss to hope, from loneliness to love. And for the first time in years, she looked at herself and said proudly, "I made it." Chapter 6. The Message from the Past. 6 peaceful months passed after Alina and Justin got married. Life felt calm and safe. Alina often thought, maybe this is what I was always looking for. Justin treated her with care, never raising his voice, never letting her feel alone. He made her laugh at small things. Sometimes she even forgot that she was once broken. But life has strange ways of testing people when they least expect it. One evening while checking her phone, Alina saw a message from an unknown number. The words were simple. "I miss you, Alina." Her heart stopped for a second. She stared at the screen, her mind confused. It was Barry. She kept looking at his name, her fingers shaking. She wanted to delete it, but her eyes couldn't move. After a long pause, she whispered, "Why now?" She didn't reply that day. She told herself, he doesn't deserve an answer. Yet she couldn't sleep. Her mind played old memories she had buried deep inside. The next morning another message came. "I made a mistake. Please talk to me once." Alina read it again and again. Her chest felt heavy. She sat quietly thinking of the man who had once promised her forever and then left her like she meant nothing. For days she ignored him. She focused on her work and on Justin. But Barry didn't stop. Every few days, another message appeared. Words full of guilt and sadness. "I lost everything. I can't stop thinking about you." One night she whispered to herself, "You broke me and now you say you miss me." But her eyes were wet. She didn't understand if her tears were for him or for the memories that never left. She kept it all inside, not telling Justin. She didn't want to hurt him. She thought, he won't understand this confusion. But hiding the truth felt like carrying a heavy stone in her heart. A week later Barry called. She didn't answer, but hearing his voice on the voicemail made her heart ache. He said, "I'm sorry, Alina. I was blind. The girl I left you for cheated on me. I lost my peace, my home, everything. Please meet me once." Alina sat on the bed and cried silently. "Why did you remember me now?" she said to herself. "When I finally found peace, why do you want to destroy it again?" The next few days were full of questions she couldn't answer. Justin noticed her silence. "You seem distant lately," he said softly. She smiled weakly. "Just tired from work." He didn't ask more, but his eyes showed concern. One evening Barry sent another message. "I just want to say sorry in person." Alina stared at it for a long time. After a moment she replied with one word, "Fine." She promised herself it would be only once, only to close the past. The next afternoon Justin told her he had to travel for a business trip for a few days. Alina nodded, pretending to be normal, but her heart was restless. The day he left she sat for hours before finally typing, "We can meet tomorrow, only once." When Barry saw her message he replied within seconds, "Thank you. I'll be waiting. That night Alina couldn't sleep. She looked at Justin's photo and whispered, "Forgive me. I just need to end what still hurts me." She convinced herself it wasn't wrong, but deep inside she knew this meeting could change everything. The next day she met Barry at a small cafe. He looked different, older, tired, broken. When he saw her, his eyes filled with tears. "I can't believe I'm seeing you," he said quietly. Alina stayed calm and said, "Say what you came to say." Barry took a deep breath. "I destroyed everything good in my life. The woman I left you for betrayed me. I lost trust in everyone. I was a fool, Alina. You were the only one who truly loved me." Elena's eyes filled, but she tried to stay strong. "You left me when I begged you to stay," she said. "You said I wasn't beautiful anymore. You broke me." Barry nodded with regret. "I was blind. I didn't see what love really means. I see it now. Please forgive me." His voice cracked. Alina looked down. "Forgiveness doesn't change the past," she said. "You can't fix what you burned." He leaned forward. "I'm not asking for the past. I'm asking for one more chance." Alina froze. Her hands shook. "You're married now," he said quietly. "But I still love you." She stood up. "This was a mistake," she said, holding her tears. "You should move on." "I have." She left before he could say another word. That night she sat alone, feeling the storm inside her heart. She didn't tell Justin what happened. She told herself it was over, but she knew it wasn't. The words Barry spoke kept echoing in her mind. In her diary, she wrote, "Some wounds don't close even when you cover them." Then she whispered, "Why do old memories hurt even when you try to forget?" She turned off the light and tried to sleep, but Barry's voice stayed in her ears. "I still love you." Join our YouTube membership to enjoy exclusive new emotional stories made just for you. Chapter 7. The Choice Between Two Hearts. After that meeting, Alina told herself it was over. Yet her heart would not stay still. Barry's voice kept echoing, "I still love you." She tried to push the memory away, but it followed her everywhere. When Justin came home from his trip, he hugged her and said, "I missed you." She smiled faintly and whispered, "I missed you too." But her heart was heavy with guilt. Days passed, but the secret sat between them like a wall. Justin felt the distance growing. One night he said softly, "Something has changed." "You don't look at me the same way," Alina replied. "You're imagining things." He sighed. "No, I know your silence." She turned away, whispering, "Please, not tonight." But Justin's voice broke. "I gave you my whole heart, Alina. Tell me what's wrong." She couldn't speak. She feared her truth would destroy everything. But the next week Justin saw a message on her phone. Barry's name on the screen. He froze. Later that night he said, "Is he back in your life?" Her hands shook. She whispered he just wanted to say, "Sorry." Justin's eyes filled with pain. "Sorry doesn't fix betrayal," he said quietly. "Are you meeting him again?" Alina didn't answer. Silence spoke louder than words. Justin stood up. I left everything for you. I could have chosen anyone younger, but I chose you because I saw your soul. If you go back to him, you'll lose me forever." Alina said with tears. "You don't understand what it feels like when old wounds open again." Justin whispered, "I understand love, not confusion." A few days later Barry called again. This time she met him. They sat across each other. Memories between them. He said, "I can't live without you." Alina whispered, "You already did." But when he spoke about the life they once shared, her eyes filled. She still felt that bond somewhere deep inside. The next evening Justin returned early and saw Barry's car outside their house. When Alina walked in, he said, "I saw him." "You lied," she said softly. "It wasn't What you think? Justin's voice cracked. Then what was it? Tell me, Alina, who do you really love? She stood still. He whispered. You must choose. Him or me? Tears rolled down her face. She said, Don't make me choose now. But Justin said firmly, No more half-truths. I deserve the truth. She cried, Barry hurt me once, but I still remember the man I loved. And you healed me when I was broken. How do I choose between pain and peace? Justin said, By listening to your heart. The next day she met Barry again to end it clearly, but fate had other plans. Justin arrived there by chance and saw them talking. His heart shattered. He walked toward them trembling with anger. Enough. Alina, he said. Choose now. Barry tried to speak, but Justin shouted, Stay out of this. Alina cried, Don't talk to him like that. Justin's voice rose again, and in that moment pain turned into chaos. She slapped him and said, Stop it. You're hurting everyone. Justin stepped back, eyes full of tears. He said softly, I never wanted to fight. I only wanted your heart, she whispered. Then let me go. He nodded slowly. I hope he never hurts you again. Then he turned and walked away. As she watched him leave, Alina whispered, You were the one who truly loved me. But her voice came too late. Justin didn't look back. He was gone, taking with him the peace she once prayed for. Chapter 8. When he came back with tears. After Justin left, silence filled every corner of Alina's life. She had chosen Barry, but peace never returned. Barry tried to make things right. Yet, something was missing. His love was full of guilt, not warmth. Alina often sat her day alone and thought, Why doesn't my heart feel free? Months passed. Barry was kind, but their smiles never reached the eyes. Sometimes she looked at him and remembered Justin's quiet care. She whispered to herself, He loved me without conditions. That thought hurt more than the past ever had. 2 years later, Alina's life looked normal from outside, but inside she carried a secret pain. She often wondered where Justin was, if he had found someone who truly valued him. She missed his laughter, his calm voice, the way he said, You deserve happiness. One night she found an old message from him on her phone. It said, I hope you never forget that love can be kind. Her eyes filled with tears. She whispered, I forgot, Justin. I really did. Barry noticed her distance and asked, Are you happy with me? She looked at him and said softly, Yes, I'm fine. But her voice trembled. He turned away, knowing the truth she couldn't say. Alina wrote in her diary, He came back with tears, and I lost the man who came with love. That single line carried all her regret. She wanted to meet Justin once to say sorry, but he had already left the country. No one knew where. Every evening she stood near the window, remembering the moment she let go of the only person who truly understood her heart. She whispered, When he came back with tears, I broke 2 hearts, his and mine. Like, subscribe, and share. Read this story and many more on our website bookiesenglish.com. Link in the description. The end.